People would say that this game doesn't really matter that much as long as you win the last two. You seem to have a different opinion on the importance of this.
I mean, we got to get a win. Yeah, we've got to get a win, and we got to play well. Simple as that. I mean, yeah, according to the playoffs and all that, it doesn't, I guess. But if we want to give ourselves a chance to win, and to win as we finish this season out, and to win in that tournament as you get there, you got to get momentum going.
Dak Prescott talking about the importance of the Cowboys winning a game. They've lost 3 in a row, and here come the red-hot L.A. Rams to try to make it even harder for the Cowboys to get to the postseason. Cowboys have lost 7 of the last 10. They started 3-0. They're 3-7 since then. Here come the Rams, turning it around after that. I give them a lot of credit. They got blown off the field by the Ravens. They have been great since then. They are very dangerous. I think they're going to go into Dallas and win. And the Cowboys can lose this one and still win their last 2 and win the division. It all comes down to Dallas at Philadelphia for the NFC East, I believe. So they really don't need this one as badly as we would think. All the more reason to think the Rams, who desperately need it, will go into Dallas and win.
I agree with you there. I think the Rams have figured it out a little bit. I also think Todd Gurley looks like, healthy old Todd Gurley. The way he's running really hard. The Cowboys and Eagles, these two teams, we do this every year in the NFL where we say, I called it the Falcons syndrome a couple years ago, where you're waiting for their best game. They have all this talent. You're waiting for their best game. Maybe they just stink. And maybe that's what the Cowboys are. Maybe their best game is not coming because that's just the team they are. Not a good one.
Yeah, that occurred to me last Thursday night watching them lose to the Bears. We assume that the coaching is the problem with the Cowboys. They may just not be very good. And this is my one critique of Jerry Jones, who has assembled a collection of highly talented players. How much consideration was given to how those players are going to come together, how they're going to mesh, how they're going to become a team? Because it hasn't worked. It started off well because they played a crap schedule. And then it got more difficult, and now we've seen this free fall, and I don't think they're going to be able to hang with the Rams. But again, it all comes down, I believe, to next week at Philadelphia. One of those teams is going to earn the NFC East Championship and the home playoff game that goes along with it, as unfair as that may be. Vikings, Chargers. And, Big Cat, I had to take at one point that the Vikings are going to be 7-7 after 14 games, and they're going to have to beat the Packers and the Bears to get to the playoffs. I was wrong about their record. They're now 9-4, which is good. But now they have to beat the Chargers, the Packers, and the Bears to get to the playoffs. It's all on Kirk Cousins. Can he deliver with the season on the line? Because the Rams are coming up strong from the outside. They need to go to L.A. and beat the Chargers, who, even though they were 5-8, are very dangerous, and they could rise up and win this game in that 27,000-seat high school football stadium they play their games in.
Well, the Chargers are dangerous. The Chargers are one of those teams. I feel like we say this about the Chargers every single year, that they're not in the playoff race, that they look like a playoff team if they had just found a way to win a couple of those one-score games where Phil Rivers is down in the fourth quarter. Mike, a little stat for you. I brought a little stat. The Chargers are 35% win rate at home since 2014. They don't win at home. They win on the road. They don't win at home. There's no home advantage here. The Vikings will go and win this game. As much as I don't want them to, they will go and win this game.
Yeah, I want to see what Kirk Cousins can do when we get to that point in the year where everything starts to tighten up and you understand these are big moments, these are big games, these are big drives, these are big throws. Now, I think Vikings fans will overrun that stadium. They'll be doing the skull clap all day long, and the Chargers are used to that. I think that's one of the reasons why they're so good on the road. They never have a home field advantage. They're used. They'd rather go on the road and be the outcasts than be the outcasts in their own home. So, yeah. But still, this is on the Vikings. The Vikings have to seize this. They were not impressive last week against the Lions. Yes, they did enough to win the game. It just wasn't the kind of showing you expect from a team that should be in the mix for something significant in the NFC, because I think they are a good team. Let's see if they can deliver. That's the real question.
One more crazy stat with the Chargers. Their plus 38 point differential. The 10-3 Seattle Seahawks are plus 20 point differential. So it's crazy how this league works. If you win your close games, you win your one-score games, find a way to win those coin flip games, your season can look totally different. The Green Bay Packers, also 10-3, are plus 39. So basically identical point margins, point differential, and that's the Chargers' way. That's how the Chargers kind of always are.
That's how they were last year. Phillip Rivers said after the season that they could have been 16-0 or 6-10 last year because every game was a close game, and they ended up winning 12 of them. They're not winning them this year, or they would be in the mix in the AFC. Eagles at Washington. Philly can win the division if they just win their last 3. Now, when you've only won 6 out of 13, there's not a whole lot of confidence you're going to win the last 3, but they have Washington, the Cowboys, and the Giants. And once again, it's going to come down to what happens Week 16. I think it's more important for the Eagles to win this week, though. You don't want to be a game behind the Cowboys going into that Week 16 game. I think you want to at least be even or a game ahead of them. Even so, it's going to come down to Week 16. I think something woke up for the Eagles in the second half of that Monday night game. Something clicked for Carson Wentz. He got it done with a bunch of guys that nobody's ever heard of playing around him. They almost had Josh McCown playing receiver. That's how banged up they were. I think Wentz has arrived at a point, almost like Trubisky. It's fixed. The confidence is back. He feels like he can get it done, and I think they will get it done this week. And I kind of think they'll get it done next week, too. I don't want to get ahead of myself. For this week, I think they'll get it done at Washington.
I don't know about something, fixing or waking up. I think they just realized they're playing the New York Giants defense, and it's one of the worst defenses in the entire NFL. I like the Eagles here to win because I just, they got something to play for, and the Redskins, while they've had a nice little resurgence here and they have some talented players and they've shown a little fight, now we're getting into the 15, 16, 17 weeks, and it's a little tougher to get up when the season's over and you're trying to go tackle someone and get in front of someone. So I think the Eagles will win this game.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Seattle Seahawks go to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Once upon a time, this had the potential to be a great NFC rivalry. Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, now it's Kyle Allen. The Panthers in free fall for the second straight year. They were 6-2 last year. It fell apart. This year, 5-3. It's falling apart. They're now 5-8. And the Seahawks need this one. They've got to stay in the mix for that possible 1 seed or 2 seed in the NFC after losing to the Rams. I think the Seahawks are good enough to get this back together. It would be almost like a disqualifying loss. If you lose to Carolina, a Panthers team that's in disarray right now, interim coach, you have Dante Jackson, cornerback on the Panthers, calling out the head coach for some of the things they did last week against Atlanta. If you can't beat this team, you don't deserve to be in a position to take the NFC West from the 49ers. I think the Seahawks win.
I agree with you there. The Panthers don't really do anything anymore that scares you. Their best player is Christian McCaffrey, and he is phenomenal, but he plays the least valuable position on the football field at running back. So they don't do anything that I think will give the Seahawks fits here. The only way you could take the Panthers is if you just convince yourself the Seahawks can't play on the East Coast, which I don't even know the numbers behind it, but that feels like something they have struggled with in the past.
And, Russell Wilson was the MVP favorite there for a little window in time, and Lamar Jackson has kind of taken that away from him. I don't know that puts a chip on his shoulder or anything. He just wants to win football games. They had a bad performance on Sunday Night Football. They had been showing up in prime time, and they'd been looking good. And Pete Carroll will talk them through. You're going to lose games from time to time. It happens. Let's get it together and let's get moving. They need to get themselves ready, though, for what's coming. Week 17, Seahawks hosting the 49ers. If the Seahawks can hold up their end of the bargain, that game is going to determine the 1 seed versus the 5 seed, quite possibly, in the NFC. And speaking of the 49ers, they host the Atlanta Falcons. A trap game for the 49ers at home against the 4-9 Falcons?
Oh, yeah. Big-time trap game. The 49ers spent 2 weeks straight on the East Coast. They spent the week between the Ravens loss and the Saints win in the Panhandle in Florida, practicing out there. So they just got home. They have an emotional win in the Dome against the Saints. They're riding high. The Falcons are coming in. They stink. This is absolutely a trap game. I think this is a game that you got to take the Falcons plus 11. And I do think the 49ers will win, but they're a little banged up. And it's hard to get up every single week for an inferior opponent when you have those big games coming up, week 16 and 17, to basically decide where your seeding is going to be in the NFC playoffs.
See, I disagree with you on this, and there's one big reason why. Because I think Kyle Shanahan is a master of sticking it to his former teams. And he's got every reason to be a little salty about the way things ended in Atlanta, because on the way out the door, he got blamed for the 28-3 meltdown, specifically the play calling on the drive where the Falcons could have gone up 10 points against the Patriots in Super Bowl 51, the passing instead of the running, so much for the head coach having the ability to overrule the play call from the coordinator, so much for the quarterback being the last-ditch opportunity to avoid disaster by calling an audible. But I think Shanahan, and he's very good at identifying reasons to hold a grudge, and sometimes there are reasons to hold a grudge We saw it against Washington. We saw it against Cleveland. I think we're going to see it against the Falcons. If it was any other 4-9, 5-8 team, I'd worry about the 49ers here. I'm not worried about the 49ers taking care of business against the Falcons. And because it's the Falcons, and I also think that, they're in that kind of special season mindset where they're not going to let their guard down against anyone, especially with the Rams coming and the Seahawks behind that. So I think the 49ers are going to win. I think they're going to cover in that game.
Okay. All right, we'll see. Well, maybe we'll make a bet on it for dinner at the Super Bowl.
Okay. I'm sure there's McDonald's all over South Beach, so I'll take care of you down there. I know that's your favorite restaurant.
You know what? In every game plan, you always assess the situation to see exactly what needs to be done. Now, the good thing is that we have some plays that were built in that can help Pat execute the things that we needed to get done. But that's something that we have built in each and every week, and we sit and discuss it all the time. There's always a contingency plan for what if. The last thing you want to do is get caught, you're not prepared for certain moments, but there's always a plan lined up.
Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, talking about the possibility that Patrick Mahomes may have issues. He's got the bruised hand. Look, he missed a couple of games earlier this year. Matt Moore played well. I mean, that's plan B. Put in Matt Moore, and Matt Moore will get it done potentially against the Denver Broncos. But you know what? The Broncos all of a sudden aren't the pushovers that they were after what they did to the Texans last weekend. And Drew Locke is a guy who may solve a lot of the problems in Denver. John Elway just kind of flailing around like a kid trying to whack a piñata at a birthday party, and the piñata's 10 feet away from him, and he's trying to find his quarterback, and finally he's gotten that stick on the piñata, and he's got a quarterback who can play in Drew Locke. I'm excited for the Broncos. It's kind of that same vibe that the Bears have. Different circumstances, but the idea that there's hope for next year. Drew Locke is giving them that hope. Drew Locke back in Missouri to play the Kansas City Chiefs and has a chance to run his career record to 3-0. I don't think they're going to pull it off, but I'll tell you what, that game's a lot more interesting than it would have been with Brandon Allen or Joe Flacco under center for the Broncos.
I absolutely agree with that. Drew Locke, I think it was the first time ever a quarterback has won their first start on the road throwing 300-plus yards and 3 TDs. So if he's making history, he's making history. It is funny that this might be the guy, John Elway, after missing on Paxton Lynch, after bringing in Joe Flacco and having everyone say, is he ever going to find a quarterback if it is Drew Locke? I like this game. I think it's going to be interesting to watch. I'll take the Chiefs, but yeah, you're right. You nailed it. This game now becomes a lot more fun to watch because of the presence of Drew Locke.
And another great game and a great race to the finish in the AFC South between the Houston Texans and the Tennessee Titans. They will play twice over the final 3 weeks of the season, and the Titans have now caught the Texans at 8-5. And the Titans are the team you definitely don't want to mess with right now, Big Cat. They're 6-1. Ryan Tannehill has been spectacular. Derrick Henry, he's banged up, but Derrick Henry, if he's healthy, he can get it done as well. All of a sudden, it's like the Texans are this pendulum that swings so sharply back and forth. They get blown out by the Ravens. You have no faith in them. They beat the Colts. They beat the Patriots. Hey, they're doing great. Then they lose in ugly fashion to the Broncos, and I think they're in real trouble here when they go to Nashville. The former Houston Oilers taking on the current Houston Texans. I believe in the Titans in this one, and I think the Titans are going to end up winning the division.
Ooh, okay. I do agree that they're in trouble in this game, the Texans, that is. I just love this game because I think it's going to be points all over the place. I don't trust the Texans defense. The Titans secondary is banged up. Both quarterbacks are playing great. I think there's going to be points in this game, and I'd probably lean towards the Titans at home with, the mojo they have going and how they've felt in the last few weeks. Ryan Tannehill, it's incredible, Mike. I don't know. What do you do? How many years do you give? How many millions do you give Ryan Tannehill? Do you franchise him?
You may have to franchise him. The question is, who else out there is going to be dangling big money in his direction? I think other teams are going to be a little hesitant. They're going to think, it's not going to work for us. Maybe it work for them. And, injury is something that you have to worry about. If you're Ryan Tannehill, he had the torn ACL before. He's had other injury issues. So far, so good in Tennessee. But I think the Titans find a way to keep him around. Maybe a shorter-term deal, a 2 or a 3 year deal. I'm not really sure, and a lot of it depends upon what he wants. He's been through a lot of crap in his career. He told me a couple of weeks ago he's cherishing everything about this phase of his career because it looked like it was over for him. And now it's back, and it's better than it's ever been. And I think the Titans ultimately find a way to keep him. The idea of the franchise tag to me is it seems like a stretch, but hey, they may have to do it if they get the sense that other teams are serious about making a run at him in the offseason. All right, Patriots Bengals, a game that got slightly more interesting thanks to Spygate 2. I think that Bill Belichick will want to curb stomp Zach Taylor and the Bengals. I'm anxious to see their post-game interaction. During the game, I think it's going to be all Patriots, and I'm even more convinced it's going to be all Patriots because of the fact that you got a lot of salty people in that locker room over this made-up, in their mind, controversy regarding the videotaping of the Bengals sidelines by a member of the video crew unrelated to the football department last week when the Bengals were in Cleveland.
Yeah, I think this is a get-right game for the Patriots offense. The Bengals defense doesn't really do anything special. You can run on them, you can pass on them. The Patriots, it feels like they will come out of this game having a little momentum on the offensive side of the ball, putting together 4 quarters, scoring, we're at whatever, 28 plus. So I think the Patriots will handle the Bengals easily in this game.
Yeah, I think so, too. And I'll tell you, yesterday when we were doing our joint picks podcast, Sims and I, we were going back and forth. We do our best bets every week, and I was thinking Patriots to cover or 49ers to cover. I ultimately went with 49ers to cover because I just don't trust the Patriots offense yet. I need to see.
Bad bet. That's a bad bet on the 49ers. I can't wait for that Wendy's that we're going to go to.
We'll see.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.